All right, welcome back to the Health Engineer Show. I'm Clint, Fuqua, the Health Engineer, and today, imagine if you could take and plug into your brain and just make stuff happen. That's right, get smarter, maybe get rid of some depression, maybe feel better about you, perform better at work, perform better on the field of play if you're an athlete, or better yet, know what's going on with your brain. It's not just a movie, it's not science fiction. Well, I'm not just talking about the Matrix here, but you actually can quite literally tap into your brain, plug into it, find out what's going on there, how healthy your brain is, and know realistically what is going on with you, with your family members, with your children, with your parents, okay? The status of their brain health. So I got my buddy, Rob Howie, coming on with me, who's with Polaris EEG and Diagnostics. We're gonna talk about that, talk about the real science behind that, the science of, well, fixing and repairing a brain, and how that's possible today with the technology we have, what he does here, why you should see him, and, well, how it's gonna play a role in brain health for athletes, for veterans, for you, for your parents, for your kids. So one, you can learn better, have a better life, have better clarity of thought, not forget stuff when you walk out of the room, okay? And better yet, be able to live a better life because your brain, which is that supercomputer up here, is functioning at the highest level possible. Because if it's not, you're not, and your life is not. So come on, join me with Rob. We're gonna get you dialed in, we're gonna plug into your brain, and, well, we're gonna show you the magic of what you can do to improve your life with a better supercomputer up here.
Clint Fuqua is the Health Engineer, dishing up healthcare reform through personal responsibility in the areas of nutrition, discipline, and fitness. Clint cuts through misunderstood health theory with over 35 years of practical results. Start taking control of your health today with the Health Engineer. Here's your host, Clint Fuqua.
All right, we're back, Health Engineer Show. I'm Clint Fuqua, the Health Engineer, right here on the Offbeat Business Media Network. And today, well, we're gonna tap into your brain a little bit. So if you've seen The Matrix, that's right, we're gonna tap right in there. And so the guy that's gonna do it, Rob Howie, actually you're not gonna do it, but we're gonna talk about, well, some systems in brain and brain health and kind of how things work.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, so your background is really interesting. One, how you got into this,
yeah.
Okay? And two, what you did previously and still do a little bit as well, which you're a pilot.
Right.
And most people know, or hopefully they realize, as a pilot, your brain has to be exact and on point all the time.
Pretty much.
Because, well, one, you got a lot of people depending on you to get you up and down safely. And then you've got aircraft that you're controlling, which is not exactly easy all the time. It's not like you just hit autopilot and go, right? But you've got like major checklists. I know you have worked with a lot of pilots in the military, stuff like that. So we're gonna get into some of those things and mental acuity,
right?
And things that really have to be checked off and known about that, along with athletes too. But let's give everybody a little bit of your background. One is a pilot, okay? Some of the cool stuff you've done, what you've flown, and then I know your main piece is business. Like you're a businessman. You look at all the different sides of a business, how it works, how it runs, and how that pulled you into what you're doing now.
You know, it's an interesting concept, and how I'm here, it's amazing to me because I mean, really, business is business. Whether you're selling watermelons or nuclear weapons, it's still business.
Yeah.
And so yes, I am a pilot. I fly for United Airlines. I've been there almost 34 years. Right now I'm on the 777, but because of COVID, I haven't flown in a while. So, you know, you take that opportunity and you build. So years ago, I used to own a helicopter company. I had a charter business, and next to me was another company, and they were kind of doing this right here, but they didn't really know what they were doing. And I kept going in and fixing things and got more involved in it. Strangely enough, they were doing toxicology tests. And so they were trying to get doctors. Well, my wife, and we've talked about this before, has been very sick for a very long time. So she goes to a pain doctor, what have you. So when you do that, you have to have a toxicology test. Well, we had a CLIA license and we had a lab, and we were doing that. Well, the one doctor they really wanted was her doctor. And I was able to get that doctor, and that's what prompted me into this. And as we got further into this, we got into the neural side of it. And I just kind of I wound up being executive vice president with them. And then I just left and started my own. And so you just empower the people around you, and I brought in physicians and everything else, and then I'm good at building businesses.
And just so people know, you're across the hall from me in my new project. Yeah. So all the stuff I'm doing with Ivy Hookup and now Olympic Fit, like literally you're right next to us. Yep. So we're gonna be seeing a lot of athletes your way, just so you know. Both Ray, myself, and a lot of other people your way. In fact, I've got like a couple of emails going to you right now before we get on the show.
Oh, wow.
For a few people to come see you. But what you do is really interesting because we'll get into some of the stuff with like the regular brain tap stuff where you put the lights over your eyes and you get all the magic light show, which is cool from an emotional response standpoint. But the cool little machine that you got, it's seriously, I mean, it's that big. It's incredible what this thing does, and we'll dig deep into, well, not really deep, but give a good idea of what happens there. As a pilot, you have a checklist, right? So before you take off, you come in, you've got the checklist, you're checking this stuff off. And most people kind of have a checklist for most of the stuff of their health, right? What's my blood pressure? What's my cholesterol? What's my hormone? If they even look at hormone status, what am I taking? Am I working out? What's my sleep? And basic stuff. But one thing most people don't really have a checklist for is what's going on with my brain until way after it's too late to check it out. Whether somebody you have the thing where you just can't remember anything anymore, right? Or you start finding names. You can't remember what you just did a couple of minutes ago, all the short-term memory stuff. And next thing you know, you're like, man, I don't even remember what I did yesterday. How do I forget an entire day? Right? So, and then next thing you know, I've forgotten an entire year. So from that, there are checklists that people need to have specifically for their brain health.
Well, it's an interesting point you bring up, because I find this interesting is that we take care of the house, take care of the family, take care of the car, we take care of everything. We go work out, we eat right, do all this other stuff. Do blood workups. When the last time you had a brain scan? Do you know what's going on up there? And that's what controls everything else. And that's where my interest in this became, because not only do we do the brain scan and all the other stuff, but we also use neurofeedback therapy, which works. We just basically retrain the brain. So this brain makes everything else work. And that's where my interest came in this. Growing up with, I say growing up, but being married for all these years with a wife who is dependent upon medicine, I don't want to be that way. I'm almost 63 years old and in really good shape. And, I check my blood and check my deal, but I've had 3 of these tests done on myself. Just to make sure I'm hitting on all cylinders.
I watched you do one.
That's right.
I watched you do one. So I was actually in the office one day. He's like, "Hey, you want to check this out? Here, watch this, and we'll show everybody what you had on your head." It's, like I said, it's like the Matrix. You're getting plugged in. But yeah, it was really neat watching this thing do a full diagnostics test on you, and then of course you get the packet coming back, and I'm reading through that, and it's going through everything. And once again, for the athletes, we're going to send to you, a lot of that's going to be for like the response time, right? Because if their response time is off by a millisecond, well, that's a dropped ball. That's a second place versus a first place. So huge for them, because most of us, they're in their 20s. They don't really have cognitive decline. But there's also traumatic brain injury stuff. There is emotional trauma stuff. You're getting into major car wrecks because you have a 300-pound lineman hitting you at full speed. Right. So, but yeah, so we have those things there, and the testing that you do is phenomenal. You got some cool toys.
And with the device that we have, which works on a quantitative EEG, which has been around for a long time, but how this works is there's a database, a world database, and it uses the averages of EEGs. So what this little device you saw, goes online, but it's in the internet, and it's taking those averages. So that's why the word quantitative, because it looks at all that. So it knows what it's supposed to look like. And so when a patient comes in, and we can see the abnormalities in this, and the device does it for us. But it's interesting. But on top of this too, with our medical director, Dr. Lee, we've got a SPAC machine. And that's more of his side of it, but that uses nuclear medicine. And it creates a 3D image of the brain that is color. I mean, it's amazing. We're getting into personal injury with attorneys. You know, you see the advertisements on TV. So a lot of attorneys and stuff like that will send it for a CAT scan or something along those lines. It can't see a TBI. It can, but it can't see it like we can. Yeah. And that's the difference. And then when you combine those two machines that we've got, it's pretty strong.
Oh yeah, really I've seen the imaging. It is amazing the imaging that you get in there, because you've got like the images of different types of brains. So this is your brain on this. This is your brain on this. If you remember the old commercials back in the day, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs, right? Yeah. Literally, they have that picture there of a brain on like different medications and drugs. You're like, wow, that's what it looks. That's what the brain looks like when it's on that stuff.
It's interesting that just on that point right there, while marijuana is becoming legal, and we're also into CBD oils too. We certainly believe in that, and that's just a whole conversation in itself. But when you look at somebody who's used chronic marijuana smoker for all these years, and you look at their brain, what it looks like the surface of the moon. Oh yeah. And I mean, I'm sure everybody smokes a joint somewhere in their life, but like anything, chronic alcohol use, marijuana, drugs, stuff like that, it affects this thing up here. Oh, and that affects everything else. Yeah, and we're going to dig a little deeper into that and show off some of the toys that you work with. Right after we have a little word from our sponsors, so check them out. Come right back. We're going to start digging a little deeper into the brain, and probably your brain too.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? Or spending late nights uncovering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Introducing IV Hookup.
IV treatments have been the standard of care used for years to deliver intravenous hydration treatment to patients. Our medical director has created a safe, industry-standard protocol to efficiently support your wellness through IV vitamin hydration, including options for athletic performance, mood enhancement, general wellness, and hangover recovery. IV Hookup now offers full-spectrum COVID-19 testing at reasonable prices. This means we can get you and your staff tested in a quick time frame. Are you hosting a group event? We can provide a customized package for IV treatment and COVID testing as well. IV Hookup is everything you need to both stay healthy and to prove it.
Go to ivhookup.com to order yours, and we'll bring it right to you. That's ivhookup.com.
All right, we're back. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into the brain and, well, all things about the brain and helping it heal, get healthy, and what you do over there. Because I know you're primarily just a diagnostics company, right? Yeah. And so from a medical standpoint, because we talked a little bit about this during the break, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have the medical hierarchy, right? So the AMA, stuff like that, most everything done medically for brain health, depression, anything like that, they go directly to medications. Absolutely. All the time. Because it means, one, that's where the money goes. That's who's paying for the schooling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't know that, well, now you know. So what you do primarily is, I mean, it's drug-free. You're looking at the brain itself, and how it's working, what's functioning, what's not functioning, doing that checklist and doing that big 40-page check. It's impressive, 45 pages of, this is your brain right now. And so part of that is people knowing what's going on with their brain right now, because we talked about that with athletes, right? Mm-hmm. Here's your brain right now. Here's what it is when it's healthy. And then they get hit by that 300-pound lineman. They come in. Well, here's your brain now, or you get into a car wreck. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about why somebody would want to come in and do a brain scan. One, just to know where they're at.
Well, I like where you're going with that. Well, one of the things, folks, is if you have a scan and you know where you're at, you know where your blood work's at right now. Yeah. If you get sick, well, your blood work was here, but now you're here. You have a scan, you come in and do this, you're normal right now, so we know where you're at. The scan stays with us. We have to keep it for 7 years. So, and plus you get a copy of it too. So if you do get in that car accident or something like that, now we can prove up, well, they were normal here, they're not now. Yep. So that's why I'm such an advocate of this, is because we do everything else, but why don't we do something about this? And it's not like you have to do it every week. It's not that.
Oh yeah, yes. It's a one time, and then if something happens, well, now you got your baseline to work from. And I know there's a lot of schools that are starting to do that for the athletes now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we just got accepted by the NFL with this device.
Oh yeah. We talked about that last week. Yeah. So, which is huge, because brain injuries, TBI, all that stuff for NFL is huge. I mean, that's been one of the biggest stories in NFL probably the last, 5 or 6 years? Because they've been petitioning for, look, we keep on getting brain injuries. Y'all got to pay us for this, right? Yep. Should pay up more for whenever we retire, because of everything we're having to deal with now. Yes. With depression and suicide rates and everything else, because it's incredibly high for athletes and military too. Mm-hmm. So, because we're going to talk about PTSD and military and some of the stuff that y'all can work on with that. But let's pull the little device up here. So, just so everybody knows, I joked about the Matrix, but it's pretty real.
Well, no, really, this is the hat that I put on when I get ready to go fly. Yeah. No, really, folks, what this is this is an EEG. Basically, it's an EEG. This is where we put it on. And so we hook this little deal right here, hooks to the computer itself, plugs in, and then our tech goes in here and puts a little bit of gel in here, and it just makes the continuity between the scalp and this. Mm-hmm. So women, you need to bring a hat, because you're going to have a little gel in your hair when you get done.
You're not going to be pretty when you leave. You're not. Sorry.
And you're not going to be pretty with this on either. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's what it does. And, these things are cleaned after every use and what have you. But but that's what it is. And we have like 5 or 6 of these things that we channel through the patients. But that's how it starts. And when, I got asked this morning, a patient's coming in. He goes, well, do I need to dress a certain way? And I'm like, well, no, just show up.
Show up. Just show up. We've got the hat for you. Yeah. I would have you show off the other machine, but it's too big to bring in here, and it's kind of expensive. So
that one is, yes.
Yeah. So because you got like a couple $1 million sitting there for doing the brain imaging. Yeah. But from that standpoint, people doing a checklist for their brains. Whenever you start looking at that, at what point would you suggest somebody comes in and gets their brain scan, just for knowing, whether it's a youth athlete or just for general knowing? I want to know what's going on with my brain. Maybe you're in sales, maybe you're in leadership, maybe you're a CEO and you're going to run a company. Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, you're going to be president, and we need to know how well your brain's functioning. Right? I know, I went there. But when should people start looking at doing that, just so they know, I've had this check, and then how often maybe should they come back to see when things start going off?
One of the things is, as we age, and I'm 62, going to be 63, I don't notice any cognitive issues. My mind goes 1,000 miles an hour all night long. And yeah, I have sleep issues too, and yes, I do use this to help, and it does work. But you'll start noticing a decline. I mean, I'm actually treating my uncle right now, and he's 76, but he's noticing a decline. On the Alzheimer's standpoint, this device has the ability to see 15 years out in advance of markers for Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. So it's usually at 65 is when you start down. And here again, there's no cure for Alzheimer's, and we're not making any statements on that, but we can at least look and see. We have a patient coming in tomorrow for this, and we can do some stimulus to that, and it possibly helps. But it's just part of getting old. I mean, you just got to keep going. But you get people like my wife who, I don't know what she would really look like if we did the scan. It wouldn't be very good. But for those of us that are healthy right now, this is a great time to come in. And even if you're having our number one ailment that we get called on is anxiety.
Yep.
And the next one is sleep issues. And the next one's depression. Well, anxiety and depression kind of run together. So we treat that 10, 15 patients a week, and they're getting great results with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so, one of the big stories on that, so Heath Ledger, years ago,
Yep.
I mean, tragic ending to his life. Not really suicide, but it was a mixing of drugs that should not have been mixed together. Yeah. So I know what y'all do specifically is without medications.
Yes.
And the goal is to get people off of them. That's one of my goals for everybody, is to get you off of that stuff as much as possible. So when somebody is on medications and they start thinking, I would like to get off and do this naturally.
Absolutely.
At what point should they start talking to you about that? And what's the rate of I'm taking medications, and then I know it's different for everybody depending on what's going on. Mm-hmm. But what's the trend that you've seen with people coming in, both at your current location and places you've been in the past with? I'm taking those medications, and then next they're like, I don't need this anymore.
Well, here again, we have to get with their physician and see what they're taking. We do a workup. Our physicians look at it. We have a neurologist on staff too. And so we kind of make the decision if it's a serious deal. And then from there, usually what we do won't hurt what they're doing, but they'll find that they start kind of getting off the stuff a little bit. And it's the same with CBD oil. People who are in pain, they start taking CBD oil, and the next thing, they're not taking as many pain meds. Yep. So you have to wean people off of it slowly. All I'm trying to say is if you're tired of taking drugs, you might give this a shot, because we're seeing great results. And if you look at the website and some of the testimonials on there, it's pretty good.
Yeah. The other thing I want to hit on, because this is a huge issue right now, which is depression, and mostly in high school kids.
Yeah.
Because they've got enough stuff going on anyway, right? You get the hormone fluctuations and everything else, and now they've been locked down, away from their friends, away from school, etc. So for parents that want to address some of these issues, what would you say to them as far as when to start bringing the kids in, or things that they should notice within their kids of changes in behavior of here's what's possibly going on that we can take a look at and start improving that. So one, they're not depressed all the time. They have better coping mechanisms for everything that we've gone through and what we're going to go through over the next couple of years as well.
So with kids, it gets a little different. I think our age is about 12 to 16, right in that area. Our physicians really have to look at that, because there's, kids aren't finished growing yet.
Yeah, no.
And so there's, that's the reason they won't diagnose them with anxiety or all the things that are out there that we think they have. So kids are kind of touchy. 15, 16, 17 years old, we can look at that. But much younger than that, we have to review each one with the doctor and see what they say.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the big thing. You have a neurologist there, not just that, a radiologist as well.
We have a radiologist. We have a neurologist that's on staff.
Yeah.
Now, they are off property, but they're just right down the street. And then we also have another. He's our attorney, but he's also a doctor too, ear, throat, or ENT doctor. So yeah, we're pretty loaded up on that.
Yeah. So full medical staff people. It's not just we're not just plugging into something and saying, okay, we're gonna type some stuff in and boom, done. No, it's a little more complex than that. But so we're going to take one more little break from the sponsors. We're going to come back, a little bonus round, throw some questions out here, and just so we get to know him a little bit better and dig maybe a little bit deeper into the brain, and then how to get in contact with them. So be right back. We'll message from our sponsors.
Strong business has always been the clear economic indicator. Work Suites in Allen, Texas is just one of 18 locations in DFW and Houston that support your necessary transitions with full service and affordable workspaces for upgrading or downsizing your current workload. You need to be focused on growth. Trust the office experts and helpful staff at WorkSuites to take care of everything else, from dedicated phone lines and internet to furnished executive and co-working spaces. The OBBM Network has tripled our business in the short months we've been with WorkSuites and encourages you to step out boldly, make the tough decisions, and get back to work your way. Your nation depends on it. The OBBM Network acknowledges that this is a pivotal time in history, and it is clear the United States of America has been undermined by many of our elected officials for some time now. We want our local business audience to stand strong in the face of what we now understand, and to be empowered to grow our businesses on the local level beyond the limitations that have been imposed upon us. We believe it is in our national interest to inspire our communities through strong economic development, and additionally to hold our elected officials accountable for accurate representation of we the people. For that reason, we encourage you to go to WeStandForFreedom.com to learn about the National Write Your Congressman organization that has been the trusted communication tool for local communities for over 60 years. Learn how your representatives are voting. Understand the laws and regulations under consideration on the state and federal level before they are enacted at the county and city levels. Communicate directly with these officials and stand up for yourself, for by doing so, you will protect the communities you serve from tyrannical rule and unconstitutional reforms. The OBBM Network is the premier voice for local business, and we take that responsibility seriously. The OBBM Network has everything you need to grow and transition your business for success on popular syndicated podcast networks, Roku and other video channels, and the OBBM Network app. We work for you, local business, and we've got your back.
All right, we're back. We're back in the jungle, a little bonus round. And so we're going to talk about, because I'm a health and wellness guy, right? So let's talk a little about exercise, diet, and brain health and how those tie in. And the cool thing is that we're like together, literally, we're across the hall from each other. We're going to be doing so much together in the future. So let's talk about from what you've seen and what you can extrapolate from like the brain scans you've seen and people's diets and exercise, and how that impacts their brain health.
You know, it's a great question you bring up, our statement, but you know, diet and exercise is really it. I mean, if you just do that, I mean, you'll be great. And then if you add in brain health, it's amazing. If you just have a baseline of where you're at, and you know, we can help with the other stuff. And then with your gym across the way, I mean, and your dietary things, and then Dr. Lee upstairs, I mean, we've got everything right there. But seriously, one of the things we talk about with our patients when we come in, when they fill out the patient uptake form, is what does your diet look like? You know, and they'll say this. Well, you know, we start making those changes, and you know, they start feeling better, and the brain starts feeling better, and you reduce the sugar, and you know, next thing you know, you got a healthy patient. Yeah,
and you actually have blood flow to the brain.
There you go,
which is good.
It's kind of important.
Have you noticed like remarkable differences? Have you had people come in that were not working out and then they started working out, and you've done brain scans on that?
We have, and there are some differences. Most of the people that we've had come in like that have been, they've had anxiety or they've had depression. So it wasn't anything really serious, but they were somewhat overweight and everything else, and we've kind of changed their diet with them and everything else. But you know, just the overall well-being, and here you go, you feel great, the brain feels great, and look what happens, you know, so.
Yeah. Any differences? So, looking at supplements versus medications, have y'all looked at anything like that for as far as somebody's taking some natural remedies for depression versus medications? Have y'all seen differences in how that affects brain health?
We haven't dealt with it that much. You know, it's the depression. It's just all over the map. And here again, anxiety and depression kind of run together. So each patient's different. You know, so we haven't seen a lot of that right yet, but I'm sure we will.
Yeah, we might have to come up with our own little study on that.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have time, right? So, Dr. Lee,
that's right.
We're throwing some interesting stuff at you, and so along with that, so there's a nonprofit I want to get you involved with as well. So, specifically around PTSD, because I know you deal with PTSD a lot with what you're doing. right now. So let's hit just a little bit on that, because you see the ring, why I wear that. So let's talk a little bit about that and health for veterans.
Well, first off, to quantify PTSD is not necessarily with veterans. It can be a car wreck. Anybody. It can be anything. So it's a traumatic injury or traumatic event that happened at one point which causes that. So with our vets, though, we've really been looking at getting more into this. They need help. When I was with the other company, we treated some vets, and it was amazing what we saw. I mean, I've been in a room before with a vet where the whole room was in tears, and we started treating him, and my goodness, he's just a different person, just a nice guy. And if you've been around vets before, they don't really want to talk about.
Oh no, it's a quite taboo thing. I know my granddad had some PTSD issues because he was in, he was in 3 wars. So he was World War II, Korea, and Vietnam twice. Yeah. So luckily, I mean, he was really well adjusted for everything. He
buried it.
Yeah, he buried it, which is what everybody from that time frame did. Just he lived all the way up to the age of 90.
Wow.
He was fighting to the end. In fact, he fought like the last 15 days of life. He's like, I'm not dying until I hit 90. I'm holding on. So, but yeah, so for athletes as well, they've got a lot of the same issues from that. Plus all the major head injuries, traumas, especially so females, girls have that too. Just for everybody out there, girls that play soccer, major traumatic brain injury stuff going on with them because head, skull size, all that stuff. But so how does everybody get a hold of you? How do people get a hold of you
we're right there in Plano, so we're together. So you can look at our website. It's called Polaris-Diagnostics.com. You got to put that hyphen in there or you won't get us. You can also call us at 972-478-0600. And the girls will be happy to take your call. The website's great. Take a look at it. It'll answer a lot of your questions. You got depression, anxiety. You can click on the little deals. You'll see exactly kind of what you're feeling and give us a shout.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We dug in deep. For everybody out there, seriously, get in contact with him. Get plugged in, okay? And get your brain health checked out and improved even better. Otherwise, Clint Fuqua, the health engineer right here, Offbeat Business Media Network. Check out the rest of our shows. You're going to love everything we're doing, including what we're doing with Epic Times.
The Health Engineer is produced by Offbeat Business Media for the OBBM Network and made possible through the generous support of sponsors and viewers like you. For program information, call 214-714-0495. The Health Engineer, Offbeat Business Media LLC, OBBM, Network trademarks, and all portions of this broadcast are produced for the exclusive use of the OBBM Network and affiliates, and may not be reproduced without written permission by Offbeat Business Media LLC. All inquiries are directed to call 214-714-0495.